grace and law together, not grace versus law, is not a New Testament invention. Most people think that it is. Paul is operating solely within the regular, accepted, majority Pharisaic view of Jewish thought at the time. It's nothing new. I've got Everyman's Talmud pulled up here. In rabbinic literature, this is page 17, by the way, if you're wondering. In rabbinic literature, an eternal conflict is represented as being waged between God's justice and grace, or mercy. He's actually using grace and mercy interchangeably here. There is scarcely a passage which refers to his capacity as judge, which does not also allude to his attribute of compassion, which is also grace. Moving on, the attribute of grace, it is taught, exceeds that of punishment, i.e. justice, by 500-fold, according to the Talmud. This conclusion was deduced from the fact that in connection with punishment, God described himself as visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children unto the third and fourth generation, Exodus 20, verse 5. But in connection with grace, it is said, and showing mercy unto 1,000 generations. The last phrase is, in the Hebrew, alafim, which is literally thousands plural, and must indicate at least 2,000. Retribution, therefore, extends at most 4 generations, whereas mercy extends at least 2,000 generations. That's Tosefta Sota 4:1. So this is not a new thing. The New Testament did not invent grace. I know that's a very common. I actually heard that a lot in one of the first churches I ever went to. That the Old Testament was very judgment, and the New Testament was grace. Right? I'm not sure how many people drop it in the comment sections if you've heard that before. If that's something that you've heard, and in fact, I just thought of this. I don't know why I didn't use this for my prep for tonight's show. I just thought of this. It is often said by Tim Hegg. Let's see.
You go into the John 1:17?
I believe 3. Volume 3. Moses brought condemnation, Yeshua brought grace.
This is, I think that section is based on John 1:17, right? Which says, and I'm going to read from the King James because the King James has the most important bit here, is that for the law was given by Moses, but grace and truth came by Jesus Christ, right? For any of you who have a KJV at home, it may not show up in a digital copy, but in an actual hard copy, it will show up. The word "but" there is in italics, which means it is not in the original text. So the law came through Moses, grace and truth through Jesus Christ. This does not make them opposing concepts. It if anything else, gives a much deeper definition, right? Because if we're to understand, first and foremost, the problems with this idea that God couldn't be graceful prior to Jesus coming and dying, there's a number of theological problems that come with this. There's the idea, first of all, that God changed, right? That's Marcionism. The idea that the God of the New Testament is a different God from the one of the Old Testament, because in the New Testament he has grace, which means that he changed, which means that he lied when he said he doesn't change, right? But there's the idea also, and this goes into the abolishing of the Torah side of the argument too. The idea that he was constrained by his own law, and so therefore could not offer grace in the Old Testament period because the Torah hadn't been abolished yet by Jesus. This creates a number of problems, because essentially the argument is that, well, because Jesus is God, he can abolish the Torah if he wants to, because God can do what he wants. Except for before Jesus died, because then he couldn't do what he wanted to. He was bound by his own law. Right? Like there's just an inherent level of conflict. Said,
I would almost rather be a Trinitarian sometimes, because it would strengthen our position, if anything else, in my opinion. Because it's like, okay, if Jesus is God, dope, roll with it. Then Jesus gave the Torah at Mount Sinai, and he's the one who said, I am unchanging. And he's the one who said that This is eternal. This is an eternal covenant, eternal statute. It's so much easier, and it helps our case, if anything else. So I'm all about it. But pulled open. I just opened to the page. So yeah, as you pointed out, for the law was given by Moses, but grace and truth came by Messiah. He immediately points out the word "but" in the King James is added by the translators. Is in fact not there. It should read as such. For the law was given through Moses, grace and truth were realized through Messiah Yeshua. In other words, the idea that John is contrasting the Torah with the work of Messiah is not found in the text itself. On the contrary, if we realize that the Torah spoke of and pointed to Yeshua, then John's words can be understood as paralleling Moses with Yeshua, not contrasting them. In fact, John makes a similar point with John the Baptist's work. Just as Torah, Moses, spoke of the Messiah, so too did John the Baptist come to testify of the light, Yeshua. And that's from John 1, 6 through 8. So this is a great, this is an invaluable resource.